All right, now you can get quiet.
That clock's right, isn't it, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
57, it should be. As you probably have noticed, we're not too intent on being right on time on everything.
Well, it's still going.
We start late, we run over, it's whatever fits. I've got 58, and that was like we're trying to sort of here within 5 minutes. Already they figured it. It's our student assembly of
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Universalist Church of New Madison. And let me begin by sharing these words by Amanda Schubert. We are glad you are here. If this is your first time here or your 101st time, we're glad you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you are here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square, or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we're glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we're glad you are here. If you sing like angels, or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you are here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you are here. I would like to check to see if there are any announcements before we move forward.
Just a reminder, it is next month, but we'll have our annual meeting on July 23rd. And so we have a nice attendance for that. That happens just each year. And that's where it'll be after the service. So we'll have a regular service prior to that.
Okay.
And just a community announcement, if you've not picked up a July 4th booklet, there at the library and other places, but lots of festivities planned for the 4th of July weekend, although it's actually the weekend before that. So lots going on in New Madison. If you want to come back, those of you far away, feel free. Those of you close, we're all obligated to go. We need numbers.
Thank you, Mike. So mark your calendars, annual meeting of the congregation, July 23rd. And don't miss the 4th of July in New Madison. It's really when New Madison pulls out all its stops for the 4th of July weekend. Any other announcements? Let us enter our sacred time together.
In the name of peace this morning, the Spirit of God descend upon my heart.
Thank you, Roberta. Now light our chalice. The theme this morning is courage, and I've chosen these words by Paul Strecker. We light this chalice in memory of the courage of those who have struggled for freedom, the persistence of those who have struggled for justice, and the love of those who have built beloved communities to carry on in the light of hope. I just practiced this.
Pull the trigger on the top.
Hold the trigger on the top and push the thing on the bottom.
Yeah, the thing on the bottom, yeah.
I apologize, folks. I'm never going to be an arsonist.
I'll remember it.
You too. The lighting of the chalice is always such a symbolic act in our church. I hope I haven't messed it up with my awkwardness. When I chose the hymn for this morning, it seemed appropriate. After all, summer solstice started this past Wednesday at 10:37 a.m. But the summer sun is not shining. However, we are so thankful for the rain, we're going to sing it out anyway. Hymn number 66, When the Summer Sun is Shining. Now I'd like to invite you to say the affirmation printed in your order of service, if these words are in keeping with the way you feel. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human needs to the end of its souls from love and harmony with the divine. Thank you. We come to that part of our service where we invite people to share joys and concerns. We are a caring community where we share special joys that lift our hearts and concerns which bring us pain. In these times, we are heard. When we are heard, we are honored. When we are honored, we can move towards healing. We will light a candle in honor of those joys and sorrows now shared. I like to start, and I'd start with one. I don't think we can say this too often. I like this first candle in joy and appreciation for Paula and Chaz for mowing the grass and watching out for our fine old building. Day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, season after season. Thank you. And Tim for all he does to keep our doors open with Sunday services. Roberta and Lloyd for lightening our hearts with music. And Mike for your leadership. I know that should be more than one candle, but we'll start with this one. I invite the rest of you to share joys and concerns.
Once again, we don't have enough candles. I want a moment of silence maybe for children and guns. Just to name a few: the mother who shot and killed her child, the father who shot and killed 3 of his children, and the 3-year-old child who found a gun in the bedroom and shot and killed his mother by mistake. Just a minor listing of all the people shot and killed this week.
A candle for all the grief caused by guns, the children who have been shot, who are themselves shooters, for everyone affected. I think, unless perhaps I'm a week behind and you've already done this, but I would like to light a candle for Lonnie Valentine, who passed away after what seems like all too brief, but maybe felt like a long time to him, illness, brain tumor. Lonnie graced our pulpit any number of times. He brought a certain humanity and warmth to this pulpit that I'm sure affected everyone who had the opportunity to be with him. He was just on the cusp of his retirement. I know most of you know this. He was planning things, those post-retirement fun things that one plans, but his plans were cut short. And our lives are all impoverished, I think, for losing Lonnie.
Can I add a little bit to that? Bethany is planning a memorial peace chair. Not Bethany, ESR is planning a memorial peace chair in Lonnie's name. They are inviting donations. Eric has contacted me. El Dorado is going to have a Sunday where the offering will go for Lonnie's peace chair. I think that would be nice if we would offer whatever we can do too. But I want to add one caveat to that. I don't know how many of you are aware of the financial trouble that Earlham College is in, but Earlham College took 1/3 of the endowment of ESR, the seminary that's connected to the Quaker school. They just came in and took that endowment without any permission. I am hesitant. I don't know what's going to happen to the money we contribute to Lon. They're trying to raise $1 million for this peace chair. I don't see any guarantee that Earlham is going to leave that $1 million with ESR. I am very worried that Earlham will say, we need more money, we need it more than you do, we're going to take that. Derek now works with Bethany, which is connected and coordinated with Earlham, so I think we need to investigate that a little more and see, this is just my personal opinion, see if we can get some kind of affirmation from Earlham College that any money we donate to Lonnie's name stays with Lonnie's name and does not go to the greater good of Earlham College.
Serious stuff.
I'm sorry.
Somebody raised their hand. I saw you down again.
I'm sorry. You didn't think I made it. I'm sorry.
I can't hear you, Lou. changed his mind is what I think it boils down to. Are there any other joys and concerns?
Just a note, lots of tragedy in the world, but the one more boat capsizing, refugees, if you will, attempting to leave northern Africa for Europe. That has happened so often, and I know several countries are involved in trying to alleviate that, make it, I guess, safer passage, if you will, whereas others are basically ignoring it. The last capsize claimed a considerable number of women and children, as well as men, and it's something that, with all the other news, good and bad in the world, is kind of overlooked, but let's hope for a little more stability and maybe some factors coming together to help people solve the problem, stabilize, if you will, the mass exodus from those countries, and more importantly, ensure their safe passage.
To add to that, Mike, I was just reading this morning about the migrants in a boat sunk June 14th off the Greek coast, who were largely from Pakistan. And within days of this happening, the two Pakistani gentlemen were in the Titan submersible. And so Pakistan's looking, here's our multi-million-dollar leader, and we can't seem to even get people to go collect the bodies from the boat that sunk off the coast of Greece. So it's really called the stark inequality of that situation to mind. Didn't get much coverage, I don't think, in the U.S., but certainly it's a very important topic of conversation in Pakistan right now. Other joys and concerns? Then I will light one more candle for the unspoken joys and concerns which remain in our hearts. So you see Maya Angelou on the screen, and we all know we're part of the First Universalist of New Madison, not New Maison, but Tim was checking our French out this morning. And you'll notice at the top of the order of service, a quote from Maya Angelou, specifically about courage. Let's see. So obviously the topic today is courage. A firefighter rushes into a burning home to save a trapped resident. A woman who was out on her morning walk eases over the ice to save a dog who fell through. A pedestrian waiting to cross the street notices a toddler dart in front of a car and grabs him just in time. We see these headlines, or headlines very like this all the time. These are acts of courage. In these cases, physical courage, perhaps fueled by adrenaline. In each case, the doer acted in spite of danger to himself or herself. In all cases there, I think we would agree that the doer exhibited courage. So today, that's what I'm speaking about, but specifically, I want to address a different kind of everyday courage, and not so much physical courage. So you won't be hearing about acts of courage in the field of battle, nor shielding a safari companion from a charging rhino, none of that stuff. Let's put this in the context of do the right thing. Of course, who wouldn't? After all, we learned at our mother's knees to tell the truth, to be kind, to clean up after ourselves, not to throw stones, and a whole host of other do's and don'ts. The same messages were reinforced everywhere I turned, from Girl Scouts to Sunday school, and the list got longer. Do not kill, do not steal, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's a particularly good one. Yep, do the right thing. Got it all figured out. Do the right thing. Do I? Do I always? I don't. I think my own proclivities get in the way. One of those is procrastination. Another is, well, I just have to finish the next chapter in this novel. Or maybe I'm behind on the laundry. Those don't sound like such important things to get in the way of doing the right thing. But in my case, I think they might. In spite of help from my mother and the Girl Scouts and Sunday school and myriad others, I sometimes fall short. I suspect we all do. Now, I'm not suggesting that we lie and cheat and steal. After all, we're UUs. But what we didn't know at age 6, we certainly know now. There are many shades of gray. Just trying to figure out the right thing isn't always so easy. It's not straightforward. Sometimes it's easier to say nothing than to wade into controversy. Sometimes it's easier to do nothing than to take a stand. So, stepping back a bit, let's see if we can unravel the elements of courage. I found 49 synonyms for courage in the thesaurus. 49. A quick look at the internet reveals countless quotes. It seems that everyone from Gandhi to John Wayne has written about courage or has something to say on the subject. There are essays, entire books written about courage. But in spite of these quotes and essays, I still have questions. Where does courage come from? Why do people act or fail to act with courage? Why haven't I summed up the courage to act on issues that concern me? To tackle this topic today, I have pared down myriad elements of courage to a few, which I hope will bring us closer to understanding everyday courage. I've chosen 5 elements for discussion. They are fear, tenacity, love, belief, and action. Fear, tenacity, love, belief, and action. So I'll address each of these in turn. At first, fear may seem like a strange element of courage, but in fact it's essential to understanding courage. If a person is not afraid of doing something, it wouldn't require courage to do it. Moving past one's fear is what makes courage courage, I think. Nelson Mandela put it this way: I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. And from John Wayne, courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. Trust John Wayne to use a horse analogy. Actually, I believe that each of us inherently understands that fear may inhabit practicing everyday courage. Let's look again at those values we learned at a young age. We learn not to lie, but we also learn to be polite. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. I can't be the only one who heard that multiple times growing up. Sound familiar? What about, what will the neighbors think? Therefore, for many reasons, some of them good, we learned not to offend. We want to be kind. We want to be trusted. We want to be liked. We don't want to rock the boat. How should we handle questionable behavior by a boss? What if a friend seems to have it in for outsiders who move down the street, and the practical jokes are getting meaner and meaner? Do we intervene? How can we handle even more difficult issues that come to our attention? Those diplomats among us may learn how to tell the hard truth with a touch of humor, or a touch of kindness, or just the right tone of voice. And this approach can make the message go down easier, but it doesn't always work either. We try to address everyday wrongs, to expand others' perspectives, to encourage them to make better choices ourselves. Sometimes we succeed, but sometimes we ignite anger or indignation. In those cases, we were not able to influence others in the way we hoped. Worse, we may have pushed them in the opposite direction. Further, such an experience can make us reluctant to try again the next time. You can see how fear gets in the way. Overcoming fear is the key to courage. If fear is one element of courage, tenacity is another. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I'm really good with these adages I learned at my mother's knee. If at first you don't succeed, try again. If we feel sure that we're right on a subject that matters, we can't stop trying. At the same time, we should guard against becoming dogmatic. Here's what I've been thinking about lately. If I want to convince others, say policymakers, I owe it to myself first to listen to and weigh other perspectives. I need to understand the complexity of issues rather than falling back on a simplistic viewpoint. However, and particularly for me, I think, I have to guard against paralysis. This issue's just too complex. I'm not sure I quite have it all. Maybe I don't know enough. So it's finding that middle ground between knowing how you feel about something, having the tenacity to go after it, but also trying to understand the other side. Maybe not getting it right all the time, but trying. If I think this is just too hard, or what can I possibly do, then I will have failed to show courage. I really do have to try again. And there's another way that tenacity exemplifies courage. We probably all know someone who confronts great difficulties with dignity and resilience. Lonnie comes to mind. It takes courage to face terrible physical or emotional pain while avoiding bitterness and despair. And one example that comes to mind for me is always Dick's Aunt Laurel. Aunt Laurel was one of two identical twins. She had MS. Her sister did not. In the years that I knew Laurel, probably 20 years or so from the time I married Dick, I saw her go from a beautiful woman with occasional pain and difficulties to someone so crippled, living in a rest home, that when they tried to move her, they broke her back. Laurel took all of that with grace and dignity and kindness. And the contrast of seeing her and seeing her beautiful, I mean at age 50 or 60, whatever it was, her still beautiful twin sister, it was just the contrast of what had become, life had become for Laurel and how things were for his sister. So it was very difficult, and yet, what courage. I mean, my point here is the courage that Laurel had to never be bitter. It was frankly astounding to be around her and see her not engaged in bitterness or blaming. That's tenacity. We are inspired by people like Laurel. We are inspired by Lonnie. We are inspired by their grit and grace in facing terminal illness, inspired by their courage. Now, for the third element of courage, I've been thinking and reading, and I've been struck by the fact that love is often an element of courage. Love. I didn't expect to uncover love as part of courage. Lao Tzu, an ancient Chinese philosopher, said, being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. Love brings strength and courage. Here's an example we can all relate to. Let's say we had a child with a rare, serious illness and we weren't getting any answers. If we had to fight the system on behalf of our child, I bet we would do so with courage. Love can work in other ways too. Love for our fellow man may lead us to take action on behalf of human rights, actions we may not have contemplated if it were not for love. Likewise, love of the earth may lead us to find courage and ingenuity to work on behalf of the environment. As you are all aware, these are complex, tangled issues. If we didn't start with love, we wouldn't have the energy or the courage to keep going. It seems to me that love is the engine that drives tenacity. Belief. I've chosen that as the fourth element of courage to explore. What do we believe? What do we believe in? When we know the answer, we will be able to sort out the definition of the right thing as in do the right thing. Belief can and should guide us. It can help us pay attention to issues and trends. And there are so many things to pay attention to. Issues of the environment, issues of racism, so many issues. So what do you do? What do I do? Pick a place to start. State legislature around here might always be a good place. But one possible starting point comes from the fact that it's June, and June is Gay Pride Month, or LGBTQ. For a number of years, it seemed that gay pride was moving in the direction of being accepted, embraced even, by the wider society. Last year, I witnessed a gay pride in Vancouver that was nothing short of joyous. It was marvelous. It was fun. It was happy. It was the biggest parade I've seen in maybe my life. But now, I sense the public mood is shifting, and not in a good way. Belief will give me the courage to speak out, to contact legislators, to take other action, to watch what's going on. Take another look at the Maya Angelou quote that's at the top of your order of service. Ms. Angelou says that we cannot be kind, true, merciful, generous, or honest without courage. Now that's interesting. I don't think those words, kind, true, merciful, generous, honest, are words that I would have put together with courage. But she's saying if you don't have courage, you can't get all the way down the path to being truly kind, truly honest, etc. And I think she means courage is driven by belief. That's what I take from that. Belief will tell us when to speak up. Maybe it'll tell us when to be quiet. It will tell us when to be kind, when to be merciful. Mahatma Gandhi agreed with Angelou. He said, quote, "The weak can never forgive. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong." And I think there's another dimension to Angelou and Gandhi's thinking. We won't be able to engage other people who think differently if we don't believe and I mean really believe, that they are worthy of our engagement. In other words, we start out by being ready to be generous, to be merciful. So of the 5 elements of courage that I chose to explore, fear, tenacity, love, and belief, those are the first 4. Now number 5, action. Action must be an element of everyday courage. Thinking without action is of very little use. And since we're talking about everyday courage and not the battlefield, we're unlikely to benefit from an adrenaline kick to get us started. Simply starting may be the hardest thing of all. If we have the courage to start, we can break through fear. We can break out of our comfort zones. Importantly, let's remember, it's never too late to start. Many of us are grandparents. We've settled into a certain pattern of life. We're pretty good at those conversations which add up to some version of, ain't it awful? Perhaps we could look at these awful things through a different lens. If they are awful and they're important, why sit around and complain about them? Why not act on them? Or we could do both, complain and act. If we each can find one thing that we really want to change and we act on it, we can be a force for good. So, 5 elements of courage: fear, tenacity, love, belief, and action. These puzzle pieces fit together in a certain sequence, don't they? Let's rearrange them from my original list. I think love comes first. We have to care enough to want to do something. Then comes belief, figuring out the right thing, what needs to be done. About this point, fear may kick in. Fear brings all those questions like, why me? How can I make a difference? What will my friends think? So, then, we face the fear and action comes next. After all, action is the only answer for fear. Action is the only thing which will make a difference. And finally, actually, tenacity. Keep trying, keep going. I'd like to end my remarks with a quote from Steve Jobs, who founded Apple. And I don't know when Steve Jobs said this, but it is additionally poignant when you consider that he persevered in spite of pancreatic cancer for the last years of his life. Steve Jobs said, quote, "Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition." That's my part. Now it's up to you.
I was struck by your last quote of Steve Jobs. I don't know how many of you know the history of his illness. He trusts his intuition and what he thought was right, but he refused traditional medicine and did alternative treatments for his cancer. And no one knows whether that made a difference in his longevity or whether there would have been a cure rate. The cures for cancer are coming faster and faster. Even people with pancreatic cancer, which used to be a death sentence, there are people now who are surviving 10, 15 years. So I just wonder, even someone, and I think we talked about that before, even intelligence is not wisdom. Intelligence doesn't make you a better chooser sometimes, the smarter you are. And what would have been the difference if Steve Jobs would have taken the traditional chemotherapy and radiation as opposed to vitamins and whatever he got from Mexico? I'm not sure what it was.
I don't know how many of you could hear Tim, but he was pointing out that Steve Jobs followed his intuition and his way of doing things and rejected conventional cancer treatments and sought special vitamins and other treatments, and that right now there's no way to know whether that did or did not extend his life. But he sure did bet it all on following his own intuition, didn't he?
And I guess that's a good example. The guy that the guy that built the Triton and was the owner or the CEO was the pilot of the craft and told people that if you're afraid, if you're afraid in life, you're afraid to get out of bed, you're afraid to cross the street. I'm not afraid to get in this craft that I've designed. I have faith in it. I have belief in it. And he paid with his life and the life of his passengers for his belief, which was mistaken, obviously.
Other comments? Really? Okay. Let's move along. It's the time in the service when we take our offering. The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a stale habit. It's an opportunity to recommit to this place and to this people. Our offering is an affirmation, a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts, freely given, may we say yes to the values of our faith. May our offering help us practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond the congregation as tools to empower our mission. If you care to give an offering, I invite you to come forward and put something in the plate. If you happen to be in need, you're welcome to take something.
This is called Automatic Explorer by Chistel.
Nice. nice kind of waltz beat to this one. Keep going. Four sharps. Okay, here we go. Are we starting over? I extinguish the chalice with these words by Wayne Armisen. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Take it away, Lord.
This is an old tune from the 30s called I Cut Over the Water.
There are donuts fresh from the new freezer, and coffee. And you're between the ears, the final thing. This is a 100-year-old suspension bridge across the Colorado River at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And And you notice they are riding mules, because I would not trust a horse to cross a swaying suspension bridge without jumping over the edge of it. So that's our last little look at courage.
Thank you, Tim.
How long ago was that picture taken?
That was just like last year. Yeah. I was going to show the picture. Remember when I had the thing of the people going down on the mules with 4,000 or 1,000 feet to the left? So I'd already shown that one, so I get.
Thank you, Tim.
And I want to thank Crystal. Come back again, please, as soon as you can. These are amazingly put together. Anyone else who wants to do something, you don't have to do the whole thing like Crystal. If you just want to get up and speak on something that's close to your heart, please feel free to do that, and we will support you all the way through. But we want to hear your opinions, and also, I guess I have to throw in how great it was to hear people singing in church. It's like a tune in here on most Sundays, so it was really nice to hear those voices.
That's allowing trials.
Yes. But we have, I heard other people singing today. I heard some of your people are singing.
I choose songs that don't have a big range.
Yes.
Because when we get outside of the pretty narrow range.
Yeah, it disappears, yes.